For the last 3 days, we were talking about the science behind the sense of touch. And now we will talk about the application of this knowledge. And with that, I want us to think about and highlight why we do science. What is the purpose of science? And I think there are 2 reasons. One is just simply to satisfy our curiosity, to learn more about the world. And that's gratifying and important just by itself. But it's not all fun and games. There is also a second reason. We would like to apply this knowledge to solve some real-world problems. And for sensory physiology, one of such implications is the neural interface. Have you heard about neural interfaces before? Yeah, you did. Well, it's some of you did, some didn't, but it's a pretty simple concept. Your favorite schematic, you've seen it a lot. Again, what it means is we were talking how sensory experience creates electrical signals that are transmitted to the brain. And we were highlighting this many times and emphasizing that neurons run on electricity. Why is that so important? It is so important because humans, at the current level of technology, we learned to control electricity very well. We can create all kinds of electronic devices, and that means that electricity becomes a common language for both our man-made devices and our nervous systems. And that's exactly what a neural interface is. It is simply a communication between a nervous system of a biological organism and a man-made external device by electrical signals. And neural interfaces are being increasingly used in many areas of our lives, but very importantly in medicine. They're really helpful in medicine, especially in the field of prosthetic devices. And today we will demonstrate you a very simple neural interface. And to do that, we will use your familiar cockroaches, and we will turn a cockroach into a sort of a cyborg roboroach, in which we will artificially induce sensory experience by using electrical signals. We were mostly talking about human nervous system, but it turns out that the nervous system of cockroaches has a lot of similarities to the human nervous system. While cockroaches, they don't have brains and spinal cords like humans, but they also have neurons along their bodies, which are sort of like spinal cord, and they also have this big ganglion, a group of cells, which is like a cockroach brain. Another similarity is that cockroaches also have the sense of touch, but unlike humans who use their hands and skin to sense touch, cockroaches use their antennae mostly, and of course legs, as we have seen in the previous experiments, but I would say that their most sensitive organ is the antennae. So what we can do, so if we look at the antennae, we will notice that it also has these spikes, just the same as on the legs. And in those spikes, there are sensory neurons, very similar to what we have in our skin. So what we can do, we can implant a metal wire inside the antenna, and then we can send electrical signal down this wire using this special electronic device, which is controlled by a phone through the Bluetooth. And when we send this signal, we will have electricity in the wire, and it will stimulate or activate the sensory neuron that is inside the antenna. And this one will send action potentials. So here is our neural interface. We are connecting an external device with the nervous system of a biological organism. What do you think will be the experience of a cockroach if we send this electrical signal? Okay, but before that, that's a very good guess. It's big enough that it can hold the antenna. So you do a little surgery on the antenna. Yeah, so you're both right. So it will have an experience of sensing touch, but how would we know? How would we know that the neural interface really works? The cockroach cannot tell us that it feels touch. And here we have to take advantage of this other concept called reflex. As Evan already explained, reflex means it's just a basic unit of a basic response of our nervous systems. when we, for example, when we touch something very hot, the sensory neuron will transmit the information to spinal cord. Here, the sensory neuron will then stimulate an interneuron, and this will in turn stimulate motor neuron, which will transmit the signal to the muscles, and we will withdraw our hand. And that's the way how we can observe the sensory experience by the action that it causes. Of course, the human behavior is much more complex because our nervous systems are much more complex, so it's difficult to predict what kind of action will sensory experience produce in humans. But cockroaches are pretty simple, and their nervous systems operate mostly on the concept of this reflex, and it's easier to predict. And as you already guessed, that normally when a cockroach touches something with its antenna, it will try to move away from it. And by the way, which direction will it move? Let's say it touches something with the right antenna. Yeah, that's exactly right, because it wants to avoid the obstacle, so it will move to the left. So yeah, now we can test this prediction and see if our neural interface works. So let's activate the cyborg and see what happens. And while we are doing that, I would like you to think about this question: how neural interfaces can be used to solve medical problems.